Electric cars are relatively new, so with them will come certain growing pains. Build quality issues and buggy software features are something Tesla has worked through a lot as a new automaker relative to other companies. So one big question is, how will Rivian do here? Rivian has now shipped two customer vehicles, the R1T and R1S. Both have a lot of incredible features and appear to be very well built, but at the end of the day, they're going to have growing pains. Today, I'm going to get into all the issues I've had with my Rivian R1T in the first 2,000 miles of driving, so let's get into it, and a special thanks to Lectron for sponsoring a portion of this video. Back in 2020, I took delivery of my Tesla Model Y. It was one of the first 2200 built, and I had quite a number of issues with this car. When we took delivery of our R1T in 2022, we hardly noticed any issues. There was a small scratch on the side of the truck, and we were warned that the powered tonneau cover was already being changed. Rivian was still delivering cars with it, but they were breaking en masse, and this would likely be something we'd need to fix in the future. That's the first issue with our R1T, the powered tonneau cover. For the first couple months with this truck, the cover was fine, but it's really easy for anything to get caught up inside when it rolls up. Inevitably, right around the time I was filming my first review with this car, it finally started having issues. Mine still does properly open and close, but when I open it, it no longer closes all of those panels into the truck bed flush. It usually ends up with one panel stuck. In practice, this hasn't affected us much, but it could if we were loading in a lot of cargo. If this won't close all the way, it actually blocks a few inches of depth in the already fairly short truck bed. Typically, the car will then reopen the cover when I press the button and attempt to close it again. Sometimes this works, but other times it just gets stuck again. This was a $3,000 option on the R1T when we configured it prior to delivery, so this issue is definitely frustrating, but also expected and happening to everyone with the R1T. Rivian is working on an entirely redesigned powered tonneau cover, so I really hope we can have this replaced soon on our truck. Rivian says, quote, "The updated design addresses subcomponent design issues and improves the tonneau cover's robustness against manufacturing build variations. The look and function of the new design is the same." I'm curious to see how the change works, and the real reason to talk about this is to see how Rivian deals with it. It's not an issue on new R1Ts because Rivian has stopped shipping the powered tonneau cover entirely, but seeing how they handle this fix will inform future owners of what it's like if this brand new truck were to have some issues. Some issues with the R1T stem from software, and the good news is that as long as Rivian knows about the issues, they should be able to fix them in future software updates, pushed to all Rivian vehicles. So that brings us to the first software issue in the R1T, Maps. I'm wondering if Rivian is stuck in a contract here and can't get out of it, because Maps is about 75% reliable compared to Apple Maps or Google Maps, and that's probably being nice. There are multiple big issues. First, sometimes it just has the completely wrong destination. I've navigated to places I know, and it's trying to take me somewhere that's a quarter mile in the opposite direction. Then the maps will regularly recalculate when you're sitting at an intersection. For some reason, it thinks you missed your turn each time you come to a stop at an intersection. If I'm driving around the city, there are times when it will legitimately recalculate 10 to 15 times within 5 minutes, even though I'm directly following the original route. It's extremely frustrating and makes the system completely unreliable since it's constantly changing my route. Then it will randomly jump my position on screen. It jumps forward a few hundred feet and then back. This happens when driving, when stopped, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Since Rivian has committed to not having Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, this is the only maps you have in this car, and it makes it a significant issue. This can be fixed in software, but I worry Rivian may be stuck in a contract for Mapbox, and that's why this is still shipped on their cars. I really hope this is fixed in a future software update, but I'm a little concerned considering it made it this far. Next up are a couple issues on the exterior of our R1T. For one, the panel underneath the passenger side is a bit loose. We've definitely never come close to hitting the underside of this truck, so this is a build issue. It also hasn't been a problem yet, but it is something I'll have fixed at a service appointment. I'm not fully sure what this piece is, but in the front grille vent area, there's a couple rubber stoppers that seem to be completely loose as well. This I'll also have checked out at a service appointment. Then the gear tunnel doors have a couple issues. First is the design of them in this sharp corner that could absolutely destroy your leg when you hop down from the truck bed, but that's technically not an issue. That's how the truck is designed. Second is releasing the doors. Usually it works fine with the buttons on the exterior of the truck, but releasing the gear tunnel doors from the screen almost always ends up with an error. They unlatch about halfway, so I have to close them and open them from the button on the truck. This doesn't bother me, but it's not functioning as designed. Third, the PPF that comes on these gear tunnel doors has begun peeling. We can see dirt collecting on the areas that have lifted. Considering this has happened in a couple months, I'm not expecting great things from this PPF long term. Another software issue is the display auto mode. This decides whether the displays should be in dark or light mode, and the sensitivity of whatever system or sensor they're using here is pretty funny. If you go under a bridge, bam, night mode. As soon as you get back into the light, bam, light mode. It switches so fast that your eyes don't even have a chance to adjust, and it basically feels like the screens go blank for a few seconds. This is another easy software fix to adjust the sensitivity of, but as it is now, it's definitely an issue. Next is an issue you definitely heard about, the recall that Rivian faced. Rivian had to recall more than 12,000 vehicles due to a potential steering defect. The fix was to properly tighten a fastener, and while this was a physical recall affecting all Rivian vehicles at that point, it was a very simple fix. I called Rivian, scheduled a mobile service appointment, they came to my house and fixed it within 5 minutes. This is no longer an issue on my truck, but it's worth noting because it did affect all owners and was fixed easily. My hope is that for future recalls, of which there will surely be some, they are able to fix it this easily. Next up is a problem I had with my windshield, and we'll get there in just a second. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Lectron. When it comes to charging your EV, relying on third-party charging is no fun. Chargers can be hard to find, busy, or expensive, so the best option is having the freedom to charge when and where you want. Lectron is pioneering personal charging solutions to ensure that you have that freedom. The V-Box is their in-home J1772 charging station. It supports up to 48 amps and 240 volts max, charging up to 46 miles per hour, which easily charges up your EV overnight. Here I am charging my Rivian R1T with the V-Box at 48 amps, but you can also use the V-Box with a Tesla. If you drive a Tesla, on the road you'll want their portable Tesla charger. This has interchangeable level 1 and 2 charging plugs with 12 and 32 amp maxes respectively, giving you extra charging freedom on the road. They also make a couple incredibly useful adapters. First is their CCS to Tesla adapter, allowing a Tesla to charge at any DC fast charger, as well as their Tesla to J1772 adapter. I use this often at home to convert a Tesla wall connector to charge my Rivian R1T. Whether you drive a Tesla, another EV, charge at home, or on the road, Lectron has what you need to keep your EV powered up and ready to go. Head over to ev-lectron.com to check them out and see the latest deals. It's linked in the description below. Regarding my windshield, within the first few weeks of ownership, I got a crack. On the road, when filming my full review, a rock hit the windshield and left a nice little crack. I was pretty surprised about this happening because similar happened a couple weeks after getting my Model Y back in 2020, but I hoped this windshield would be a little stronger. The rock didn't seem exceptionally large or anything, but just hit it at the perfect angle. So far, I've just had it filled by Safelite to avoid the inevitable replacement cost. I expect to be around $1,000 or more. Eventually, though, I will get it replaced, and cracks like this have happened to a number of owners. It has also happened to owners with their glass roofs. I'm not sure if this is any signal of issues on Rivian's side or just unfortunate circumstances happening to a number of owners who are posting about it, but it's worth mentioning. Don't expect this windshield to be incredibly strong like a lot of the truck feels. Another issue we have with the exterior of our R1T is on the hood. This seems to be one of the worst areas of alignment for R1Ts in general coming out of the factory, but ours is clearly detaching more than it should be, to the point where you can actually see the glue that should be holding this piece on. This alignment is one of those alignment photos that would definitely make Tesla headlines, and it makes sense that Rivian has similar here. It definitely needs improvement though, so hopefully future trucks are a lot better than our alignment right here, and I'll let you know if it becomes any sort of issue. As far as Rattles and Squeaks are concerned, the Rivian is far better than certain Teslas I've purchased, but Rattles have begun popping up. At delivery there were none, but of course certain things will adjust as I drive 2,000 miles. The passenger seat now rattles over bumpier terrain if no one is sitting there. So if I drive by myself, the seat will rattle pretty noticeably. I'm trying to figure out the source, but it really just seems like the entire seat itself is shaking. There's another rattle as well coming from one of the windows against the trim. All are pretty minor and tough to get on video since they aren't there 100% of the time, but they do exist. This isn't ending up a 100% rattle-free vehicle, and to me it makes a lot of sense. It's Rivian's first vehicle, so certain things are bound to pop up. The suspension up front is a bit louder than I expected as well. There are some squeaks, clicks, and various sounds coming from the front of the truck as I drive. I don't think they're problems with the parts themselves, but they aren't as quiet as I expected. I will mention them in a service appointment though, since the test drive didn't seem to have these things. One thing the test drive did have was wind noise though, and this does pop up through the driver's side window when driving on the freeway at higher speeds in my R1T. Wind is definitely getting in more than it should or could be, but overall this truck does do a great job isolating you from outside noise. Next is another software issue related to the key. Rivian gives you a key card, a key fob, and allows you to use your phone as a key. In practice, when I regularly use the phone key on a Tesla, I find this very reliable. The car unlocks reliably on approach and won't lock until I walk away. With the Rivian, it's another story. I've done everything to ensure this can operate well. I of course keep Bluetooth on, keep the app open in the background and all, but most of the time I walk up to the car and nothing happens. The handles don't pop out or anything until I unlock and wake up my phone. I've now gotten in the habit of pulling out my phone as I approach the truck, but if my hands are full, I'm going to have to put something down first in order to unlock the car. First world problem there, of course, but a feature of this truck that isn't functioning as intended. It's more than that as well, with the truck deciding to lock even though you're close by. I'll be loading up the truck bed, go to open the gear tunnel, and find that the truck has locked for some reason. I then open my phone, sometimes it unlocks there, but oftentimes I then have to unlock it from the app itself. I may end up carrying the fob to avoid these issues in the future. I hope this can be dialed in through software updates. I saw this improve a ton throughout Model Y ownership starting in 2020, so I hope Rivian can do the same here. Another software issue relates to the music on screen. I use Bluetooth to listen to music since neither Apple Music or Tidal are built into the Rivian infotainment system. Bluetooth usually connects fine and it will sync album artwork that you're listening to. However, in practice, this art is either extremely blurry or completely hilariously wrong. Here I am listening to Duke Ellington's Nutcracker. Again, a small bug, easily fixable in a future software update, but present in the vehicle. Probably 25% of the time the artwork is hilariously wrong like this. Next is another small issue, but worth noting, the center console. The buttons to open the center console are powered, and the buttons themselves can sometimes be hard to press. You really have to press the right area before it opens, and sometimes it can take a couple tries. I've never had it fail to open completely though. Then, weirdly, the center console is incredibly cold inside. I think the air traveling through the center console to the rear vents is leaking into this space, because anything I keep in here for 10 minutes or longer ends up freezing cold if the AC is on. I avoid this compartment for any food because it's definitely not something that will keep warm food warm. I guess it could be a great place to put drinks or ice cream though, as it would keep those things nice and cold. For some, this could be an issue depending on what you plan to keep in your center console. For others, I suppose it could be a little bonus mini fridge. The next issue I have is also small, but a little more of an annoyance than an issue. When I'm driving, I oftentimes like to park and get out of the car very quickly. With a Tesla, I hit park and open the driver door to get out pretty much immediately. In the Rivian, you can't really do this at all. Once you go into park, it takes a couple seconds before the door handle is unlocked and functions to open the driver's side door. It's kind of a weird issue that I'm definitely not used to in any vehicle. The driver door automatically unlocks for you after parking, but it's delayed in doing so. Again, I hope this can be fixed or changed in software. Next up is the wireless charger included in the Rivian. This sits right in front of the center console armrest and functions properly, if you can get the right angle. In practice, it's hard to find the right angle to wirelessly charge your phone. Then as soon as you drive, go over any bumps, or turn in really any normal way, your phone is going to slide around on this wireless charger and lose connection. As a result, I'm looking into alternatives, and I've seen this replacement insert that uses two MagSafe pucks. Haven't tried it yet, but I'll probably give this a try, as it would actually hold phones in place and ensure that they stay put and charging. Last is charging the vehicle itself. The Rivian R1T uses J1772 or CCS to charge. This means that at home or a city charger, you use J1772 for slower charging, and on the road you use CCS for fast charging. Charging at home has been easy and great. I charge my R1T using Electron products at home, and have had nothing but a great experience there. I set my daily charge limit and schedule my charging hours, and the car completely follows these without issue. I wake up the next day and the truck is good to go. If this is how you plan to use your truck, you will find absolutely no issue here in my opinion. On a road trip though, my experience has been nothing short of awful. Rivian does plan to make their own charging network and has started with a handful of CCS DC fast chargers, mostly in California. But if you're trying to road trip in this car, you're subject to third-party charging from EVgo, Electrify America, or others. I did a road trip to Northern California and back in the R1T, and unfortunately have to say that I won't be road tripping in this truck again anytime soon. While you could argue that this is not an issue with the Rivian, I'd argue that it is. If you buy a Tesla, they have built out an expansive infrastructure of incredibly reliable fast chargers to ensure you're good to travel most places you want to go. That's part of the product that they are selling. At this point, if you buy a Rivian and want to road trip, as many do, your charging experience depends on Electrify America and others. That's the product they're selling right now. I made a whole video about my road trip in the R1T, and it's linked below, but I ended up adding about 2 hours to my journey because 3 chargers we went to were incredibly slow enough that charging the truck would have taken 4 hours or even 1 day at one particular Electrify America stall. We finally got the truck charging at 150 kilowatts after around 4 attempts to find a charger operating at the speed it should, or one that wasn't entirely broken. This was my experience charging the Rivian, and it's a big issue. Right now, that's what it is if you buy this car. You could have an easy road trip experience or a terrible one. For some, this could be a fun adventure. For some, it won't matter because they never road trip, but for some, it could be a deal breaker. I'm actually pretty sad after that road trip because we looked forward to road tripping in the R1T and using it as an adventure vehicle, as Rivian brands it. Now we don't want to stress about it and we'll just end up taking a different car. Some of the issues I mentioned in this video may be a big deal to you while others won't. As I mentioned, the good news for the software issues is that Rivian can fix these in updates to all owners. In theory, a year from now, many of these issues could be fixed, and I hope that's the case. In the meantime, if you want to see that full Rivian road trip video I mentioned, you can check that out linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.